busy day here for me in Asia, about to do an interview with a potential executive at our company, but wanted to tell you before I do that about two citizenship programs. The first one is a sort of clarification. The second one is they're taking away one of your options, and this was one of the lesser known options to get what we could call, quote unquote, a free second passport. No risk. They're taking the option away. I'm going to update you. First, let me tell you, we talked about El Salvador and their $1 million freedom passport aimed at Bitcoiners recently. We put that video out several days ago. And, I'll tell you what, I have a newfound appreciation for the haters, particularly the haters who don't know who we are, and they just come in to hate on us for one video, because every time the local haters come in, the algorithm goes through the roof. If you look at our Live Like a Kings, for example, Live Like a King in Bogota, lots of folks complaining that yours truly is in Bogota. Now, I don't meet any of these people in my neighborhood, but people came and complained. That's why Live Like a King Bogota is the most viewed Live Like a King. Live Like a King Malaysia, I think in part, not enough haters. People in Malaysia just don't hate. They're just too nice to go and hate. And so we got some hate on our video on El Salvador's freedom passport from people who I don't think understand the deal. Let me be clear in El Salvador. We're launching Nomad Capitalist Live, our annual event, April 15th. We will have someone coming and talking about El Salvador. We had Max Kaiser speak at Nomad Capitalist Live in 2022. We invited him again last year to speak next to Seyfedin Ramos. And quite frankly, I'd be open to having Max come and speak again about El Salvador. Why? I think it's an interesting story. I like El Salvador. I was there before the crime issue was solved, and I do believe it's a much safer place now. So all those things point to I have positive opinions about El Salvador. Now, would I pay $1 million to get a Salvadoran passport? No, I would not, because it's a free marketplace, and years ago I got a pretty similar quality passport in St. Lucia. It cost me $100,000. Now it would cost you about double that because the price has gone up. Requirements have gone up, but it's still 1/5 the price. Salvadoran citizens need a visa to go to the UK. Everyone needs an ETA coming up this year to go to the UK. Same as the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Korea. All the big countries are going to the electronic travel authorization, but that's not really a visa per se. Salvadorians and Honduran citizens are the only ones in Central America that need a visa to go to the UK. Take that as perhaps a minor strike against the El Salvador passport. I'm not against El Salvador. I'm not against you living there. Now, I mentioned in that video why I won't live there, and that's why I wouldn't live in most Latin American countries. It's just not a part of the world that I'm focused on. But we do have a large part of our team there. We're putting a lot of effort in. We've got a growing clientele from that part of the world. We've got a lot of people who work with us who move down to that part of the world. So if you want to live in El Salvador, you can. But here's the deal. You don't need to spend $1 million to get a passport to live there. There are residence permits, which we covered in that video, you can get just by showing you have some money, a couple grand a month coming in, you can get a residence permit. So if you need a second passport, get one for 1/5 the price potentially, or get a better one for, about the same price, or, some combination thereof, and then go and live in El Salvador on a residence permit. And if you love it and you want to spend most of your time there, eventually you can naturalize as a citizen. I just don't think the $1 million program is a good deal. Doesn't mean I'm against El Salvador, but this is what happens when people who don't understand our message come in and start commenting and calling people names. They do not know of which they speak. Nothing against El Salvador. Just think the passport is overpriced. People have said, do you think they'll lower it? Like Turkey had $1 million real estate investment and then they lowered it to $250,000. I think that El Salvador is really trying to be this high-level brand. And you know what kind of bothered me a little bit about a couple of the people chiming in was, we don't need you. I can afford to go and spend $1 million on El Salvador's passport. It wouldn't really change my life. But the idea that, telling someone like that, we don't need you. Yeah, nobody really needs anybody, quite frankly. But I think it's a bad attitude to have. Now, that's El Salvador. I'm a fan of what's happened. We're covering it at Nomad Capitalist Live. But in a free marketplace, I don't overpay 5x for things that don't add any additional value when I can get it some other way, right? Sometimes you get access to living in a country through a residence permit. Yes, that is less permanent, But if you look at certain countries, I mean, Panama, they're going to have residence permits probably until the end of time. They've always had numerous residence permit options. Malaysia, I think, is just a country that values people coming in. If you've got some money, come on in. That's how they view it. It would take something pretty substantial to change countries like those. Right? These are not countries like Europe where they elect some people who hate immigrants now and, off we go. If El Salvador is moving in the right direction, as I think it is, there's going to be opportunities for residence permits in the years to come. Now, the price may go up, but I don't know that it's going to go up so substantially that you're going to say, wow, I wish I would have paid $1 million for a passport. By the way, you can have access to living in a country or even keeping wealth in a country. Let's say El Salvador becomes the next Singapore. Most people watching this are not Singaporean citizens, but you can go and you can put your wealth there because they're a wealth haven. And now Dubai is coming up as a wealth haven. And now other places in the Middle East want to be a wealth haven. And so that's the flag that El Salvador could serve as for you. Now, let's move onwards to the free second passport opportunity that they're phasing out. Here's the news. The Turkish Central Bank, obviously the home of Turkey's Citizenship by Investment program, has phased out currency protection scheme for citizenship bank deposits. So bottom line is there's a couple different ways to get citizenship in Turkey. Quite frankly, I think for someone who wants to make an investment rather than a donation, the donation model is what you'd find in most citizenship by investment programs like the aforementioned St. Lucia and the other Caribbean options. Those are generally donation based. You give them $200 or $200 and some $1,000 and you never see it again. It's a donation. Goodbye. Here's your passport. Nice doing business with you. Turkey, you invest in real estate. That's the most common one by far. Now, I've told you that's the most common one by far, in part because most of the people selling it make their money on commissions. Okay. We have a different model here at Nomad Capitalist. Our model, and what I've suggested to you for years, is buy resale property. There's not that much good resale property, so it takes a team like the one that we've assembled to find those properties. But buy resale property on the secondary market. Do not buy from developers because a lot of the developer programs are pretty scammy and they charge pretty high commissions. So, you can pay Nomad Capitalist to do the work for you and work for you, or you can go out and, spend $400,000 on a condo where somebody potentially is getting a 10, 12, 15% kickback. You're going to pay one way or the other. And so because of those kickbacks and because people are getting these ridiculous commissions, there's a lot of money that goes into marketing the real estate option for Turkey citizenship. There is an option where you can hire people and you can create jobs. We actually have. We had a very big company. They hire thousands of people around the world. And I said, you should look at, they were already talking about hiring in Turkey. I said, you guys, they were Indian, should get Turkish citizenship. You hire 50 people, you get citizenship. Not a bad deal if you're already hiring. I wouldn't go out of my way to hire 50 people. That's a lot to understand new culture and all that just for a passport. But the last option is you can put $500,000 in the bank. And so a while back, they changed it to where you can't hold it in dollars anymore. You have to hold it in lira. But you can send your $500,000 in and they'll convert it to lira. But the issue was, well, hey, the lira keeps going down. The lira has not gone down that much recently, but it will, there's a projection that might hit 40 against the US dollar this year. So the lira over time has gone down and probably will continue to go down. And so the idea was like, okay, well, I don't want to lose my money. I'd rather buy the property. Again, if you buy a property where someone's earning a 15% commission, you ain't selling that property for what you paid for it. Okay? The only hope, in my personal opinion, is buying property in the secondary market if you want to have a chance to make money. I'm sure there's a couple developments that you can do well with, but most of them not. Anyway, you put your $500,000 in the bank, you convert it to lira. What the government offered was currency protection to where, hey, if the interest rate you would have earned is outpaced by the decline of the currency, you'll get the difference. So it basically turned into, hey, you're not going to make anything, but you're also not going to lose anything. So you're just parking money in another country for a couple of years, and you get to keep the passport for the rest of your life, even after you potentially take the money out. And Turkey has banks. Qatar, QNB, their bank is in Turkey. BNP Paribas from France. There's some serious international banks that operate in Turkey. These are not some ramshackle banks necessarily. So I don't have an issue with those banks per se. I think that a bank owned by, QNB is, who knows what could happen, but I personally would feel comfortable with that. the issue was the currency. And so now they're taking away that option. Basically, they had a lira-denominated FX protection scheme, what they called the KKM scheme, and that protected you against lira depreciation. So that option is going away. So the bank option remains, but you're going to have to convert your foreign currency into Turkish lira and then take whatever comes. And so if you put money in when the dollar is, 36 to, the lira is 36 to the dollar, and then when you take the money out years from now, it's 45 to the dollar. I mean, your 500,000 turned into, $400,000. Now, that still could be cheaper than going out and making a donation to some other program, but you're tying up the capital during that time. For some clients of ours, they have millions of dollars in the bank, so they're already looking for residences and passports they can get by just moving their money that's already in the bank somewhere else. But if that's not you, then, these are all the factors that have to be considered. Bottom line is, there was an option that you could just move some money. If you didn't care about $500,000 sitting there and you didn't really need a big return, but you just wanted a free passport, maybe your opportunity cost wasn't that high, but your only concern was the FX. Well, that option is now gone. So in Turkey, we've talked, we put out something a couple weeks ago why a lot of people are interested in Turkey. I would suggest you go back and watch that episode, why foreigners want Turkish citizenship. We are seeing an increased interest because with citizenship prices in the Caribbean, and heck, with El Salvador coming in and chancing their arm, as the Irish would say, at $1 million. Again, unless you're, earning 100% returns in Bitcoin or altcoin or some other asset, parking money in Turkey that you can take out in 3 to 5 years is not the worst deal. And so more people are interested in Turkey. The real estate option remains. I continue to think anything that pays a high commission, whether it's Caribbean citizenship real estate, whether it's Turkey developer real estate that's sold for CBI, I generally avoid those. I think the bank option now is far less interesting because you're taking on this multi-year risk of the lira. And I think the hiring option for the average person, who needs to hire 50 people in Turkey? Again, unless you're the Indian, folks who I mentioned, who they're just already hiring. That is one thing to consider, by the way. What are you already doing that would get you a resident citizenship, that would give you a residence permit or a citizenship? And that's one of the things we talk to our clients about, is we try and figure out what's going on to where, could you do that in this country? Could you move a bank balance over there? Could you hire 5 people perhaps in some other country and get a residence permit or get a citizenship? I'm not saying that nobody, by the way, should get El Salvador citizenship for $1 million. I'm just saying I wouldn't do it. And I'm saying for most people, the free market dictates it's probably not the best deal. But, we've had people come and say, can I get citizenship in Cambodia? Can I get citizenship in all sorts of exotic places? And, my perspective recently has been, if you can do that legally and ethically, sure. We all have different needs and wants. But right now, what have I told you for years? Options go away. There was a little known and little promoted option. We've talked about it occasionally in Turkey, where you could, basically park your cash. But nobody earns a commission on that. So you didn't hear about it from very many people other than from us occasionally. It just reminds me, get your stable of residence permits and passports now. Prices really never go down. Even we're looking at in Sierra Leone, we made an episode about a month ago about their residence program. They are rolling out a fast-track naturalization program. It is expensive, quite frankly, for what it is and for the quality of the passport. You would think somebody would come in, they'll come in and they'll undercut everybody and be the low-priced leader. Nauru is doing that. Vanuatu, whose passport has been decimated as a travel document, is still, charging lower prices. The R&D channel talked about that. And the bottom line is, the prices only go up for time. So if you think you need a second residence or a second passport, I would make sure you get the right one. These are the updates from me. You can go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, and we can help you sift through the dozens of different options out there. What you don't want to do is, say, this person talks about this country and I kind of like them, so I'll go with that one. I don't care how much you like me. You shouldn't necessarily do what I'm doing. You should figure out what works for you. And I think we're one of the very, very few companies that actually sits down and says what works for you, rather than just shoving the same or one of the same 3 passports down your throat. You can go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply and learn more, and we'll be happy to help you. Off to my interview.
This is Oman, and today we're showing you luxury living in its beautiful capital city of Muscat. Now we're going to show you one of the sexiest luxury villas here in Oman.
We're going to show you how to live like a king